Welcome to the Mindcraft podcast. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am here with the amazing Carolanne Caron, CPA, co-founder and CEO of Do What You Love Accounting Incorporated, with also Nic Caron, co-founder, Chief Visibility Officer. I'm super curious about that. To discuss today people's relationship with money, and I've heard from both of them that to make me laugh before I even get it out, that people would much rather talk about their sex life than their finances. So let's maybe start off with Carolanne, and then we'll just have a conversation here and go with Nic.
Well, thank you for having us, Kimberly. We really appreciate being here. And yes, isn't that funny? People would rather talk about sex than they would talk about money. And I think it stems back to growing up. A lot of times we're not talked to about money and we're not expected to talk about money because it's sort of taboo to ask
Mm-hmm.
somebody how much they're making or talk about what they paid for something, for. And so I think it stems back from just, how we were raised and just the uncomfortableness of both topics. But it's
Yeah.
funny that sex would be more comfortable than money.
Yeah,
Shows the times, right? Go ahead,
Right.
Nic.
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting because even if you just think about schooling, we have sex ed in most places through the health department and
Mm-hmm.
of the school, but we oftentimes don't have money classes. We might have an accounting or a business class, but we don't have like personal finance or even like trying to start a business or anything like that. And so I think even just in the school system, we normalize that sex is talked about within the respects of health class, but money is kind of left to the parents or just left to the student themselves to figure out on their own.
I think that is a really, really good point. And I'll tell you, because with our five kids, eventually when they got down to the last two, the high school started I forget the name of the class. It was like called On Your Own or something like that. But I'm like, oh wow, that was like the first time I've heard of anybody doing it. And then
Yeah.
at the college, I was just at college. But I agree with you because so many times it seems like we learn the hard way. If there's no structured education, there goes your credit because no one taught you the importance of or what it is and how they figure it out and all that, right? And it,
Hmm.
it seems like a lot of unnecessary pain and discomfort happens because no one just like you were saying, Nic, people counting on the parents. Well, what if you don't have the best home situation?
Yeah,
Or
definitely.
or there's one parent and working a gazillion jobs and they don't have
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Well, and even when young people get into the workforce, if they go to like a fast food restaurant or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
they're working the cash register, a lot of times they've never seen physical money. And so they don't know how to make change. So that's impactful on the business if you can't make the right change or have not even used to holding money. So if somebody hands you a $20 bill and you've never seen
Right,
a
right.
$20 bill, all of a sudden you're like, what do I do with this?
Hmm.
Wow. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
And so are you seeing this with the younger generations?
Yes. Yep. They think that so it used to be when in my generation when we were growing up, the the funny thing going around was everybody had a checkbook, and if you still had checks, you must still have money in the bank, right? Well, now it's the plastic, right? The debit cards and the credit cards.
Right, right,
Eh,
right.
If you have a credit card, then you must still have money. And it's just the concept of not knowing what you have in your account and what you have available. And that's what gets us into trouble as we start overspending and everything just compounds on that.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I can relate to okay, I ask you this question. Do you think it's also, you say like I can relate to that old school thing in college. I remember being dropped off with a checkbook at college. I'm like, what is this? I didn't know a
Yep.
thing about it. So I can get where, young adults might think that. Now, do you think, now, no, Nick's younger generation here, do you think that it feels easier? Well, because we had cash more, Caroline, you know what I mean? Like, and
Yes.
to me, it always felt more painful if I babysat, wild children for all weekend to give up the cash to buy jeans versus a credit card. Like, do you think that's a thing where it feels easier to spend?
I feel like, at least for what I've seen with me and my friends, is that when we have cash, it's almost like fun money that doesn't like count because
Right, right, right.
it's not in our bank account, so we don't have
Oh,
to like think about, oh, that number in our bank account's going down. So it's almost like free money, or like
Monopoly.
yeah, like extra money, because like if I have $20 like in cash, then I can spend that and my bank account doesn't move at all.
Which is interesting because my generation, we look at that and we say, $20, that's valuable. Do I want to spend it on that?
Yeah.
So it's a
It's so
different
different.
mindset. It is, yeah.
It is like that. I was saying it was like I remember it being actually painful because I'm thinking of back in when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and glaciers were shifting. We got like 50 cents an hour for a while. So
Yeah.
$20 was like, you're not taking that. That was like blood money. What I put up with those three little weasels for, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Versus what Nick is saying, it's a whole different perspective. So let me ask you this, because and then I know Nick wants to talk about the somatic. We can do whatever order. I'm thinking, because you sent me a note, Caroline, about the breaking the stigma of traditional money sayings, and one of them was money doesn't grow on trees. Want to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Yeah. How many times did you hear that when you were growing up and you went to your parents and said, can we buy, this new toy or this thing? And, you hear your dad say, money doesn't grow on trees and I'm not going to spend my money on that. And so it kind of imprints on your mind that
Mm-hmm.
money is this valuable thing that's meant to be held on to and kept. But we know in our industry from research that money is welcomed more when it
Mm-hmm.
flows. So when we spend it,
Yes.
when we get it out into the economy and whatnot, you tend to get more back in. So it's trying to break that mindset of we need to hold on to it and we need to
Mm-hmm.
cherish it, to it's okay to spend it on something that you want or need.
Hmm. And I think there's a somatic piece too, because this may be imprinted in your brain, but it's also imprinted in your body. So when you hear the phrase money doesn't grow on trees, I know for myself, there was a tightening in my chest. And so
Yes.
your body holds on to these stories too. And so if your body has taken that in, then it's going to affect the way that you make decisions, because your body isn't going to be on board. If you feel a tightening in your chest every time you go to spend money, then you're going to be reluctant to spend money, because tightening in the chest isn't a comfortable feeling. And so what we try to work with is that um, uncomfortable feeling, and investigating that and seeing if we can re-teach the body to loosen that tightening. And that way we can work with the business owner to have money flowing instead of being restricted.
I love this. I don't see, to me, and your mom and I have talked about some of this too, but I think as obvious as this sounds, I think most people may not be aware of it.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
tightening feeling, yes, 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 but actually making the connection that I'm
Mhm.
attracting more lack. And it might be something even like going to the grocery store. You need groceries, but if you're in that place, you're doing a lot of oh my godding, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I just spent, whatever, inflation, and it attracts more lack.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And it's hard to see that because a lot of people think, oh, well, if I'm being tight with my money, I'm being responsible. And that's not always the case. If you're holding
Right.
on too tight, then there's no room for the money to breathe. The money needs to be able to, flow in and out. And like you said, when there's something that you need, everybody needs groceries. There it would be better for your body if you had a pleasant or neutral even sensation of this is needed, so I'm getting it, instead of a oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is going to be so expensive. And even though you need it, having that like tightness in your body or that resistance every week or month or however often you go grocery shopping. And so it's really about even just thinking about that example, I would much rather be neutral in the grocery store every week than be a mess or a all worked up because of something that I have to do. And so it's
Right.
just about changing the relationship with a task or money, and relaying that to your body too.
Yeah, and it's giving yourself permission too,
Hmm.
because we're not
Hmm.
saying that you should go out there and spend beyond your means,
No.
but can you go to the grocery store and feel good that what you're using your money for is nourishing your family
Hmm.
and helping your family be more healthy because you're spending that money?
Or even
Right.
not even the extra stuff of being healthy, but you're sustaining your family. Just the
Hmm.
basic needs being met, is important.
Yeah, yeah. But
Now,
it's
now,
just
what do
that
you think
changing
about
that mindset.
Hmm.
what's that? What's that?
Just that changing that mindset from I
Right.
have to spend this to I get to nourish my family or I get to provide, sustenance for my family
Hmm.
or something like that.
I
Yeah.
was just going to ask that. So the talk back, we need to change our vocabulary. And what do you think that maybe the role of gratitude could play here? Like if we, especially the grocery store one is a beautiful fit, right? Because
Hmm.
it's sustenance, and you both use the word nourishment, I think as
Yeah,
well.
I
What
think,
kind of talk back could somebody use it and like maybe incorporating an even more powerful than I get to statement?
yeah, I think gratitude is a huge, like need. And also, I think it's important to recognize that gratitude is important, but we also don't need to be toxically positive. I think there's a good middle ground in that you can be grateful for, I think, just drawing attention to little or things you might consider little that
Mhm.
you're grateful for. So, like, I'm grateful to be sitting in this four-walled room right now with a roof. I'm grateful to have a job. I'm grateful, blah, 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 blah. But really feeling those in your body. So when I said I'm grateful to have four walls around me, I felt a secureness in my abdomen and
Mhm.
not a dread of I might lose these four walls or something like that. But also, we don't want to go so far that we're like um, toxically positive in that like you're allowed to have struggles also. So you can hold, our mentor says like the both and so, like, you can
Mhm.
be grateful that you have a house and be annoyed that you have to pay a wicked high mortgage, you know? And so, like, both can exist, but you can be grateful. You can be grateful for that house even with the annoyance, and you can hold both of those emotions in your body too.
I love the Wicked High because it brought the New England into
Yeah.
it. That's why I laugh, Nick. So yeah, I get that. I get that. So sort of acknowledging that there's a large bill, and also maybe being grateful that you're able to pay for it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we
exactly.
see that a lot too, especially with business owners. I hear a lot, I got a great job and it brought in great money, but then I also had this big bill. So instead of looking at it as, oh, I got, the big job and it brought in great money, and now it's going to go out because I have to pay this bill. We can reframe that into, I'm so thankful that this big job happened now so that I'm able to pay this bill.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, I like that.
it's reframing.
Mm-hmm. And also taking it a step further to not just reframing, but noticing what is happening in your body. So if you, well, allowing yourself to celebrate in the moment of getting that job, have a little celebration, like physically,
Yes.
but also, yeah, but
Yeah,
also
yeah.
celebrating the fact that you get to pay that bill, but also allowing yourself to feel that, like, maybe it might be annoyance, or it might be dread, or it might be some other emotion that you feel when you have to pay that bill. So you can hold both. It's just noticing what's happening in your body, because a lot of times we name emotions, but we don't connect it to the body. So we say we're angry, but then if you ask somebody, like, where are you feeling angry in your body? They're like, I don't know, I'm just mad. And it's like, but if you really think about it, you know, when I'm angry, I feel like a fieriness in my belly. And so, like, if you start to pay attention to where you're feeling things in your body with certain emotions, then you can start, like, reframing them, but also appreciating them too.
Mhm.
I like that a lot, Nick. I like that a lot because it's making me think of the, that famous Carl Jung quote of that which we resist will persist, right? So
Mhm.
if we don't even know how we're feeling, we just know, you
Yep.
use the word fiery, right? So if we just know we feel fiery, but we don't know, we're not actually labeling it as anger or frustration, which are very close, right? So
Mhm.
until we actually smack a, a self-awareness description on there, it's difficult to make sense of it and turn it around, right? So
Mhm.
build resistance. Well,
Yeah.
I'm curious if you two can talk about putting this into play. So when you have, because this is unique, and I've known your mom for about, I think, a couple of years now, at least, maybe 2.5 years, something like that. At least two anyway. And this is a very different approach to most, not that I know tons of accountants, but I do know some, and they're usually kind of, it's just a structured thing, and I don't want to knock that. That's fine. But it's like very straight up. This is what's coming in, this is what's coming out, and we might have to tweak this or do that. But there's no wraparound, certainly not with the somatic response to scarcity, which I think is fantastic. So tell me about, how your clients, maybe, without any, obviously any identifiables, but maybe with how it's working, like how are they responding to this very unique, super cool way of changing your relationship with money?
Yeah, so we've just started introducing this into our education series. And right now we're introducing it in our webinars that we do monthly. And then also we have a business expansion academy that we just started. And so far people are really responding well to it. For us, it's the key of we really bring it back to what we're talking about on that day. So we really help people not only understand the technical side of it, the accounting side of it, or the business financial side of it, but also recognizing that feelings are coming up as we talk about money, and we talk about numbers, and we talk about looking at your numbers. So even just starting with recognizing it, I think has gotten people to really think about, okay, why why do I have resistance when I think about money? Why do I resist looking at my numbers or understanding my numbers? What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I think people are really, I think there was some resistance at first, just because I think that with anything new, people are wary of it. And so, but now that we're incorporating it in basically everything we do. I think a lot of things are clicking for people in that they are identifying sensations that they're having in their body and realizing that they're not just randomly having these sensations. Like
Right,
the
right, right, right.
sensations are happening for like because of something or for a reason. And so they're starting to identify like they feel certain ways when something happens. So then they can look at their relationship to that thing that's happening and they can either try to change it or shift it
Right, right, right.
or if it's a pleasant sensation, then they can hone in on that and really
Right, right, right.
anchor that into their body, and that helps the body remember that feeling, which makes it more likely to happen again.
Well, and it
Right,
goes
right.
back to your statement on change. Like change is constantly happening in business. Um, and a lot of people are resistant to change. So if their
Mm-hmm.
business is trying to change and they're resistant to change, then that's going to hold back the business. So what we're seeing is that people are being more successful in getting to their goals because they're able to recognize what's happening
Mm-hmm.
when they're looking at their numbers, or they're even thinking about, talking to their bookkeeper or their accountant or their tax preparer.
Right, right, right.
So if the first step is recognizing, then we can act on it once we recognize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first step is really having that awareness that anything's happening to begin with. And then after that, we can try to sit with the sensation or be present with what's happening in the moment.
Mhm.
I absolutely love this because I think we can all agree. I think we're not always aware of it, but we can't do what we don't know, right?
Right.
I
Exactly.
mean, we clunk along in business as entrepreneurs, and we may not be aware of,
Right.
like when Nick was saying about the tight feeling, okay, I'm in the grocery store, maybe I'm just rushed or hurried or I'm preoccupied with something, not realizing that in the unconscious, it's locked in the vault. And
Mm-hmm.
that could
Right.
have come from messages as a child, that, like you were saying, the money grows on trees. I heard that about 200 times. When I'd ask for money to go to back in the day, it was arcades.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
$5, $5. Money doesn't go on trees, $5. Ba, ba, ba,
Yep.
ba, ba. But it's a really good point because I think many people um, don't or can underestimate the power of the subconscious
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Definitely.
because we can't do what's locked in the vault until, like you're both saying, we start to pay attention and let it surface so we understand why we're getting agita in the grocery store when we're just buying healthy food, which we need, and then it opens up a whole thing.
Yeah.
So can you think of any responses? Or because I know you're just starting out with it, or maybe looking forward to, people becoming more aware?
I think we've already seen in some clients that we're working with on this, even when we talk to them about where they are versus where they want to be with their
Right, right,
goals,
right,
um, clients are starting to say, so if I change this,
right.
then I might get here faster, which to us means, okay, it's actually resonating
Mm-hmm.
with
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
people.
right on.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, they're seeing, I think the biggest thing right now that we're seeing is that people are recognizing that it has a cause and effect.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, I think things with somatics is like a slow burn. And so it doesn't happen overnight. It's not a quick fix or a, 10,000 in 10 days or whatever, but it's stacking things on top of each other so that way when you get to that point, you have little moments that have stacked on top of each other.
So when you're talking with clients, they're actually, it sounds like they're very receptive to this.
So far, I mean, we approach it differently depending on who we're speaking to.
Mhm.
Right.
So we have people who work in the somatic world that we can be a little more forward with it
Hmm.
and use the language with. And then we have more traditional business owners who think that if they just work really hard and bring in more money, that their business will do better. And we just change the wording, just depending on who we're talking to. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we always view every interaction as education.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So, what can we leave somebody with that might trigger something that they're thinking about later and think, oh, yeah, either Nick or Carolanne said such and such to me, but I want to know a little bit more. And so then they come back and they ask more questions. So we try
Right, right,
and
right.
be very um, aware of like where they are in their journey
Hmm.
also.
Hmm.
And this information, as well as financial information, can be very overwhelming.
Hmm. Right.
So um, it's not a cookie cutter one size fits all. It's a what do you need in this moment at this time, and what tool can we bring to the interaction to help?
Absolutely love that. And I love them, even like you're talking about the different business owners and that you meet them where they are with the different language to get the same kind of thing across. I think that's awesome because I think no matter what, we're basically talking about that money is a flow of energy, really, right? Because
Mhm.
Yes.
it's an exchange of life minutes. You know,
Yeah.
I worked and earned whatever, and now I'm gonna go get a haircut, and I'm giving you what I just spent my life minutes on. It's almost like bartering if you look at it that way, right? And also, you're both, even if the person doesn't label it the same as like with all the somatic language, there are certain blocks, blockers. And I would think that no matter what their sort of places that they can understand that they're not coming to you for no reason, right? So they're
Right.
coming to you, the another thing I thought of too, we had the money doesn't grow on trees. And I also thought of blockers, another one to see if you have ever encountered this, basic success blockers, like believing that it's bad to make a lot of money. Stereotypes with rich people are jerks and,
Mhm.
all the others. I didn't know if maybe you ever hear, they might not come out right and say that, but do you ever see that as a blocker as well? Like be successful only, but only oh so much?
Yeah.
Definitely the
Yeah.
ceiling.
Yeah, so there's definitely like those beliefs that people have that they may not even realize, but they may subconsciously not enjoy rich people because they think that they're snooty or,
Right.
and so these blockers can affect their business because if they have coupled, um, rich people are bad, if they've coupled that, then they subconsciously or consciously don't want to become a rich person because
Right, right.
in their brains they'll be coupled with that belief that they're bad. And so we
Hmm.
have to work with that belief and, kind of understand the root of it and um, how to shift that so that you're not limiting your business
Hmm.
subconsciously or consciously.
Mhm.
There you go.
Yep.
Talk back to it, right? Saying I'm fabulously wealthy and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with being if in your mind you think, and I hate generalizations, but all rich people are bad, then break the stereotype and be the first rich person who's a great person, which
There
there
you
are a
go.
lot of rich people out there who are great people. But if that's if that's the starting point to say, okay, this is something that
Hmm.
I want to do and I want to do it differently, I give you permission to do that.
Hmm.
Oh, I love that, Caroline. I love that. And Nick, your somatic thread through the whole thing has just been absolutely fantastic and very eye-opening. And I think obviously the more awareness we have, the higher
Mhm.
the quality of our existence, no matter what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So really, you're both talking about self-awareness. It's just
Mhm.
a different box to check for well-being that most people dust under the rug,
Mhm.
Right.
like
Well, and
sleep, eating, right?
yeah, well, and it's easy to sweep under the rug if you don't even know it's there. So
Right.
just bringing that awareness that that box is there and it does need to be attended to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is absolutely fantastic. So let me just ask here before we sign off, because this has been just food for thought. I think it's going to resonate with, it's also really pretty ageless. I think our
Yes.
listeners from Gen Z up through will relate at different, in different ways, different, with different generations. So
Mhm.
also I know there's a little bit of speaking going on. So do you do some conferences, or can listeners know if you do that sort of thing? They may want to hire you to do a talk.
Yeah, definitely. We speak at conferences, we do workshops, we do keynotes, we do podcasts, obviously. And we also ourselves, we have workshops that we do that are Zoom based, so anybody across the world really could join if they
Mhm.
wanted to.
Mhm.
And there's lots of ways to interact with us
Mhm.
if it's something that your listeners want to learn more about. We're on Instagram at Do What You Love Accounting and Facebook also,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
Excellent.
we love getting messages, so
yeah,
feel free to message us and ask a question or um just to get to know us or whatever you want.
yeah. And if we can help anybody in any way, we're happy to have a discussion and see how we might help you.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So here we've got the dynamic duo. We've got Carolanne and Nic Caron with Do What You Love Accounting Incorporated with, the business coaching and also speaking, and they can tweak and do whatever in order to fit your needs. By the way, their information will be underneath also. So that'll be there for you to message them or, sign up for coaching, whatever. So thank you, Carolanne and Nic, for being a part of the Minecraft podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly.